small businesses are facing obviously unprecedented times, we've been giving messages of hope to individual families for a week. All the Ramsey personalities have. It occurs to me that there's some basic things that you business folks need to hear. Number one, leaders during this time are they're fashioned. You are the steel laying in the fire becoming a sword right now. Some of you, this is you are getting good at leadership, and this is going to fast forward your leadership, the sharpness of the metal in your leadership. You're going to learn how to love your people deeper than you ever have. You're going to learn how to fight more than you've ever fought. You're going to learn how to scratch and pivot and take something to the market quickly and easily from work at home people. You know, I've got all of our 1,000 people at home just about. I mean, we got 15 of us down here doing the show, but everybody else is at home, and you learn how to pivot and create products in that environment and deliver sales in that environment. And you are stretching, and it's unbelievably stressful. It's fatiguing, but the great news is you will never again return to the same shape you were before, because you're going to be bigger, think bigger, and be better than you've ever been as a result of this. That's the only good news of all this bullcrap we're going through.
Dave, I want to talk to the leader listening right now going, that's great for people whose business is going to survive this. We're having to shut this thing down. And I want you to hear, as business owners, as leaders, we get so enmeshed in our identity being our business. Here's the thing. You might lose your business. You might lose some team members. Your business may look very different on the other side of this, but you're still going to be here, and you're going to figure out how to relaunch, how to rebuild, how to come back stronger. And so I just want to give people permission who are going, I lost my baby. It's all over. I'm nothing. I don't have any purpose anymore. No, your purpose is who you are and what God put you on this planet to do.
That's right.
And there's a big problem with the thing that you've been building that thing on top of, and your platform's been shaken. But just like when a tornado comes through a city and knocks down houses, the city doesn't go, well, let's just not put any more houses back there. You're going to come back.
I want to talk to the business leader, Dave and Daniel, who they are facing right now the potential of having to shut it down. They are running out of cash. We've had a couple calls like that this hour. What do I do? And I think that there's two things I want you to know. Number one, this is a complex time, and the best way to solve complexity is with simplicity. And it looks really gnarly, but you have got to kind of put everything out on the whiteboard, everything on the table, and say, what can I control? And now I'm going to have to look at the most urgent decisions to protect the business. And this involves sometimes letting people go, and that is gut-wrenching. It is not easy. It's the hardest part of leadership. But don't get sucked into the temptation, this is the second piece, of taking a loan that could hurt you long-term and actually threaten the business viability long-term, as opposed to making the tough decisions by communicating with the team and saying, here's what we know now, here's what we have to do now, and maybe taking a hit to your heart by having to make some tough decisions about your people in order to put you in a position where you can reopen. Well, and I think that's a really tough situation right now.
Over-communicate to the team.
Yeah.
Treat them like adults.
That's right. They want to know the truth.
Tell them everything that's going on. They're real.
That's right.
Really what's going on. They're not children. You don't have to hide news from them.
That's right.
And then the second thing is you will be amazed at some of your team at how unbelievably generous they are if you over-communicate with them. In our case, we've already told our team the first thing that will happen is the operating board, which there's 16 of us that are at the top echelon of the 1,000 in terms of our leadership. We will go without pay a month. That'll be the first thing we'll do. We get paid off the bottom line anyway, which by definition we would be going without pay because there'd be no profit. So, but we're not. We're just going to set that aside. Then the second thing we would go to is that. Rather than lay people off here, what we've proposed is, and you can design your own thing, but we just told our team what we're going to do ahead of time. If it gets to that, we'll have them all skip a check and keep working. And I'd rather do that. I'd rather everybody feel a little pain than then a few of them feel a ton of pain because we don't have anybody here that we don't need. I would have already gotten rid of them if we didn't need them.
That's right.
So that's I wouldn't have hired them if I didn't need them. So and we don't have anybody here we don't like, because we already would have gotten rid of them if that was the case. And so that kind of a thing. So everybody that's here, we want here. And so we're going to, but you just design out. And we just told everybody. And you know what their response was? Yeah. I didn't have anybody go, oh, no, I would rather you lay off 100 and all of the rest of us get our full pay. Not a single person said anything like that. As a matter of fact, several other layers of leadership started coming to us saying, if it'll help, we'll skip a check. And we didn't even ask them to do that. Didn't even hint that they should. But the team will all jump in together and surprise you with their generosity for each other to get you through your cash crunch if you get to that point. We are not to that point, but we're already emotionally preparing everyone, not just the owners.
Well, the team will act like family if you treat them like family. And as a family, hey, we're going to win together, we're going to lose together, but we're not going to cut one of our members off and say, well, it sucks for them, at least I'm still here. That's not how we do it here, and that's not how your business should do it. I want business owners to think about, we have the 4 walls in personal finance, and business is a little bit different, but you got to be thinking about, how can I keep revenue going? That's the oxygen to your business. How can I keep the team morale up? How can I communicate with the team? And how do we get through this with the entire team? To Dave's point, I want you thinking about your critical expenses. Some of your expenses are nice to have. Some of them are long-term investments. Maybe you don't put all those expenses out there right now. Tighten your belt a little bit on the expenses. And then how can you show up for your customers? Not necessarily just with a sales offer, but how can you give them something that's valuable? How can you encourage them? How can you adapt your product or service to add value today that builds customer loyalty that later is going to turn it? Your customers are not going to forget who you are for them in the season. And over the course of a year, there'll be a point where that stuff will monetize. You focus on those 4 things, you're most likely going to get through this unscathed.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, those of you that think you're running 8 weeks out, I'm just, economists and weather forecasters are the only 2 people that can be wrong all the time and keep their jobs. So just put me in that bucket, okay? All right. But I cannot grasp how our economic way of life would survive another 4 weeks in May with a shutdown. I don't think it's economically possible. I have no idea what that means with the virus, other than thank God it'll be summer. And my understanding from some medical people is that the virus doesn't like heat, and like a lot of colds and viruses are wintertime animals, right? And they die in the summer. So the heat in the summer will help us with that, hopefully. But anyway, regardless of that, regardless of the medical side of the actual curve or whatever you want to project, mathematically, economically, the chances of this economy and our way of life surviving an additional 4 weeks of shutdown into May. So I'm not planning that. Because I can't foresee it actually working. So I'm planning other stuff at that point. I think you're going to have all kinds of political upheaval, all kinds of unrest, like you've never seen in America if we do that in May. So that's just an opinion, and it's worth what you paid for it. So I'm saying make it through April, and you're probably going to be okay. That's my point. I don't know when in April, but if you can make it through the end of April and with your plans, you're going to be okay.